Outer Orange. Did your deck just recently get banned? Are things just not deja vu? Are you having a rough time dealing with your banned cards? Well, do I have the deck for you? All right, here we are. It is the famous screen. We're gonna be talking about Mystery Flair Dragon in V. This is a deck that I tested quite a lot, and there's actually numerous ways to build this. I can't even tell you which way is the right way because there's only 50 cards in the deck, only so much bind that you can get to. So it's kind of just up to you what your preference of bind is, and maybe make a meta call if you want to, give damage, not give damage, because I think that's the biggest change you can make in your deck between someone else's deck. But as you guys know, Mystery Flair did get banned over in Premium. However, you do not need to drop your cards and go, oh no, I need to drop this whole deck. If you have enjoyed Mystery Flair at all, you can actually build a lord in V. It's something that I tested pretty aggressively. I actually think this deck is pretty viable. However, it is a little bricky, just like the Premium version was, but you can build it. It's not too hard. We just recently got a dog promo to kind of make it a little bit better, and you can just kind of have fun with it in case you don't feel like selling your cards, or you can try and take it seriously if there's maybe a build out there that might be more optimized. It's completely up to you. I'm going to show you guys the current version that I have. I've changed this deck at least 100 times, especially when I was testing it. I made a lot of changes throughout. I never really found a sweet spot. I don't know if I will, but I will definitely talk about potential upgrade, potential decision making you can make, different kinds of decks, different types of cards you can put in. And while you're at it, do not forget to shop at 50cards.shop. Don't forget to use my code ORANGE to save yourself some money while you're out there looking for your cards and trying to find whatever you need in your life. If it's this deck or any other deck, don't forget 50cards.shop. Use code ORANGE, save yourself some money, get yourself some cards. Set 6 is about to drop, set 7 is on its way, and Lyrical Monster is on its way, so get your cards while you can. I'm using a cheap deck box this time. I think this was originally in a different deck box, but I don't know, I just put it in this one. This is my Ultra Pro No Life No Game deck box, or No Game No Life. I always switch the name incorrectly. And then for the sleeves, we're using UU sleeves. I believe these are the ones that exclusively came with a box. There's like a little box you could order and you get sleeves for this, and I got them, so yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I really wanted the box and the sleeves came with it, so it's actually pretty cool. This is a Mystery Flair deck, so you want to have Mystery Flair Dragon in your deck. This is the card that kept switching back and forth between V and Premium. I've actually had this card for so long. I've had it literally probably since pretty much the release of it. I've had it. One of the shops I was nearby closed down, and they just had the Answer Truth boxes for super cheap, so I bought some, and I happened to have these. And on top of that, this card was also pretty cheap until recently, so it wasn't a hard grab if you had already had the cards or experimented with this in the past and just never sold it. So, but yeah, Mystery Flair Dragon, he has a couple skills. It's an on-place effect type of thing, so when it's placed, you activate the skills based off how many grades together you have bound. So if he's bound himself, he counts as a 4, and based off that, you pretty much add the number on the left corner up. As long as you can add, you get the effects right. So first of all, for 3 or more, he gets a drive, and then for 7 or more, you get crits. 13 or more, you get to choose 6 units to get 10k. And last but not least, 19 or more, the biggest part of this whole pretty much gimmick, along with Premium, how this has worked. At the end of the turn, when your turn would end, pretty much you discard your whole hand and restart your turn, essentially skipping your opponent's turn once. So what does that mean for you as the player? It means you get an extra turn, legitimately, and you can actually even get a 3rd extra turn. It's a lot harder to do in V, of course. There's no stride, all that kind of stuff, but you can have 3 extra turns. If you really want, you can push for it. I don't recommend it, but it's something you can do. There are some situations where you can try to set it up if you really want to. If you're facing Dark Irregulars, they'll do it for you. So there's a couple little gimmicks you can do. Biggest weakness isn't actually the bind zone, it's actually drawing into these cards. I took this deck to BCS actually, and I was doing well until I ran out of flares. Once I ran out of flares, that's when I actually started losing. My issue wasn't so much hitting the bind, because I would have the turn to do the bind zone. My issue was finding another flare in case there was another turn coming up or whatever. That was where my problems started happening. I kept drawing into this card towards the end. You go through your deck quite fast, pretty quickly, so you have a very high chance of actually drawing into all 4 of them, or binding all 4 of them, doing whatever, and then not having another ride target, which is a problem with this deck. If you don't have the ride, you're essentially missing out on attacks, you're missing out on triple drive, you're missing out on a lot of stuff. So that's kind of where the issue of the deck is more that than the bind. But let's go ahead and kind of just keep going. So next but not least, least, we have the main ride target of the deck. I am crazy, and I actually run 3 copies of Chronojet Dragon. This is just Chronojet Dragon. You've probably seen this card before. It's your main target to ride it into Flair and then go back down. This is also the main target that you can do multiple force marker spams under it. It's a very weird ruling, but you can actually whiff his search and then also just get extra force markers. It is one of those rulings where like you really need to break it down and explain to a person to kind of understand. This is also the same card that if you have an additional Flair and Soul, you can actually force out an additional turn by forcing him to ride this card instead of riding Jet. And if that happens, then you can get an additional turn that way. But that's another ruling that's kind of a little bit tough to explain. I might make a separate video just talk about how the rulings of this card works, because there's some very interesting rulings with this card. And then he has second skill. When he attacks, you can Counterblast, and until the end of the battle, you can give 5k and your opponent can't guard with Sentinels. This is super important. This can be your win con, because when you go from this to this, you essentially reset your turn on this. And by the way, this card does say you cannot ride again, so you can't ride on top, you can't ride another Flair, you can't really do much of anything. You just have a very vanilla turn. You can get away with this in premium because striding does not count for that, but in V you can't do that kind of stuff, so you have to be very cautious. That's why the force marker spam is really good. But essentially what you want to do, as I explained, you go from this to this and then go this back down to this and then reset your turn, and now you're on this and you have the Sentinel restrictions. Pretty important. The 5k does matter, does make a difference. It is a weaker turn, and that's actually one of the reasons I was a little weird about talking about this deck. This turn's good, but your second turn will be a lot weaker than your main turn, because one, you won't have a hand, and two, everything's pretty vanilla and you can't ride, right? So you're kind of just stuck. So just something to keep in mind. But yeah, I run 3. Most people would run 4. I recommend 4. This deck space is just so freaking tight. This card is searchable that I just would rather high roll for the search anyway, because you don't run that many grade 1s anyway, and there's only really one grade 1 you want to hit, so it doesn't actually matter. As long as you get your grade 1, usually okay. All right, adjusted my lighting a little bit for y'all. I don't know if it makes it any better for you guys, but this is Revenant Winged Dragon. Essentially, this card pretty much allows you to Soul Blast. This card is pretty much run in both decks. It's run in Steam Mains, it's run in this deck. It kind of helps you on Brick, but in this deck especially, it's mainly important because what it says is you Soul Blast, you bind 2 rear guards. It doesn't have to be himself, but you can choose himself. Usually I want to choose himself because he's a grade 3. And you look at top 3, you call 2 and you bind 1. So essentially this helps you go through your deck faster. You could find grade 4s faster, you could find all your stuff faster. Pretty much what happens is you essentially get your win con faster. So usually when you're prioritizing searches, if you already have this in hand, this will definitely be the next thing to go for. And that's pretty much how this setup works. But it's okay, we have more to talk about. So these are the grade 3s and 4s. Let's go ahead and go into the 2s, because this is kind of where some of the meat and bone starts happening. So here I have 4 Smokier. This card is almost mandatory. However, you can cut this back to 3 in case you want to run the extra jet. This card pretty much allows you to stride without paying the cost. It also has a very nice Vanguard Rearguard skill where when attacked, it becomes a 15k and then you can Soul Blast to draw a card. Pretty useful. Your soul is very, very, very tight in this deck, but mainly because of cards like this. One other card in here that I run, but you can run other cards, but there's other cards that don't really help with this situation either way. The soul is definitely a problem in this deck. It's probably the biggest problem in this deck as well, on top of not being able to stride. But essentially you can draw extra cards. He's a 50k beater, but the biggest part about him is that when you were to discard, you could discard anything for your ride to Flair, which is very important because sometimes you won't have the hand. In case you want to go for the multiple force marker strat, then you won't have a hand that way either. So you kind of really need a way to be able to use anything you have left in your hand to go to 4. So this is pretty much the card you want to do this with. There is another tech card that I'll talk about later that you can use instead of this as well, but we'll kind of talk about it in a little bit. And then next to our grade 2s, I run 3 Karunza. Karunza lets you get to Dragon faster. Skill is very simple. On rear, Counterblast, Soul Blast, pretty much send something to deck, and then you call a grade 1. You call grade higher. It can be your opponent's, it could be yours. You could do whatever you want with this. So if there's a problem card, you can send it back. You call grade higher. Ideally, you want to send back a 2 and get yourself a a Revenant Dragon. The issue with this is that this requires 2 souls, so you have to be very cautious kind of how you utilize that soul. It can be very painful, but it essentially sets up your turn super, super fast. And like I said, you can just bind. You can pretty much send it. You can send itself back. By the way, you don't have to send back a 2. You can send back your own card if you want. Ideally, you want to send back something on your opponent's side, but if you can't, then you send back yourself, and then you get yourself a Revenant Dragon, and then use the Revenant Dragon to then start looping your bind, right? So that's kind of pretty much the ideal goal. Last but not least, I run 3 of the Lost Break Dragon. This card pretty much says when placed from hand, you bind a card card, draw a card. This is very useful because it's on Vanguard, Rearguard. This can be Nabu if you want this to be Nabu. They essentially have fulfilled the same role, but just for different conditions. This one will force you to where you don't have to swing at Vanguard, but this also gets a nice little beefy, I think it's 3k. You have 3k power, so it also has a little extra power if you have something in the bind that's face up specifically. So, you know, like Joker stuff, it's weird enough if they bind your stuff face down, this doesn't activate, but it's really rare and 1% chance that it'll ever happen. You'll have to other stuff that are bound, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, so this card pretty much lets you bind and draw, and you're just going to keep digging through your deck to find more stuff. So this is really useful because you can find good stuff. If you have Flair in your hand, you can bind him and draw into a better card, draw into more useful cards, and then use those cards to bind and kind of set your bind faster. Like I said, this can be Nabu. The only reason I like this card more is Nabu has to have a card in drop. This card does not have to have something in drop, and usually your drop won't be that crazy anyway, so this card sometimes will usually be better. So that's the bright side. But the downside is that you're running out of soul quicker. Nabu is definitely replenishes your soul, and that's kind of the upside. It's kind of up to you. They both do similar things for different reasons, so it's kind of up to you which one you can play. Either or. I don't think either or is a bad call. I don't think either or is the right call. I will say that if the meta forces you to play more denial, then this will be the better card. If you're okay with giving your opponent damage, then Nabu is also a perfectly good option. Nabu it does have to attack Vanguard, so that's the downside. Since Nabu has to attack Vanguard, maybe that won't always be the best choice for you. Cookie Worker. So I have a massive PTSD against the fact that during BCS I drew into all my Flairs. Literally all games I lost because I drew into my last copy of Flair when it was my turn to go. I wish I was joking, but that's exactly what happened. So this is one option. You can run Ribble too, but Ribble requires a Soul Blast. But this has one place from hand. You can set one card back to deck, and you can choose if it's a crit or gritty. You can choose a Soul Blast and draw two. Of course, the Soul Blast to draw two will, draw one. Sorry, that part will never matter, especially in this deck. There's literally not enough soul for that to ever be a thing unless you just hit everything perfectly somehow by some miracle. Usually you will not have the soul. Like 99.9% of the time you'll have the soul. It's just never there. But you can set a Flair back to deck, which is really, really important. So, and that's mainly why this is my testing card right now. I'm mainly running for this. So there's two slots that this could fulfill. This could be Steam Breath Dragon if you want to just add more consistency to find your jet. This card can also be this card right here. This is the other card I was testing. This is a very fun little card. It's called Wedge Move Dragon. His skill is very simple. He says when the attack hits on Vanguard, you can bind a card, draw a card. So very useful from hand. And then you can also, instead of his slot, you can also run the Gear Cat, which is another card I was experimenting with. The Gear Cat is the cat that Steam Maidens just recently got. Top 3, grab a maiden, put everything to the bottom. You can run that with Entra, and instead of this, you can put the Entra in. That's the one that says on place, Counterblast, search for Gear Cat, and then Soul Blast to look at top 2. You can also run that approach. So there is a couple slots that this card can be, and it is completely up to you what you choose to put in here. I'm right now experimenting with this. This is experimental. You can just put something else here. I will say, because of the fact that it says one place from hand, it makes it so much harder to play this card. You can also, in the slot or in the other slots of your 3s and 2s, you can run Uru to fulfill that condition as well. Since Uru right here she is, she sends cards back to deck. So this is another thing that you can help yourself with. You can send back Flairs with this. The issue with this card I have is that early acceleration she's weak, but later on in the game she's better, because drawing into this, your problems are usually solved. Like I said, I'm experimenting with this currently. I'm trying stuff out. I'm trying to find like an optimal version. This is what I'm currently experimenting with. You can definitely change this out. Like I said, I just have some PTSD. I ran three Urus, I think, in the deck I took to BCS, and by somehow I still ended up running out of Flairs. So just something to keep caution of. Lost Gear Dog 8, probably the main reason this deck even exists right now is this card right here. This card is actually just straight up carrying probably like every single deck it's in right now. I'm pretty sure it's carrying every single Gears deck right now, including, I don't know about Jet, but it's carrying Steam Maidens. It's definitely carrying Flair. It carried Flair Premium. It's carrying Flair here. This is literally just better Steam Breath Dragon. It says when placed from hand, you can reveal a grade 3 and then search your deck for another grade 3 or greater. Is it just a grade 3? It's specifically a grade 3. You can reveal anything. You can reveal a grade 3 or greater. So you can reveal Uru, but you grab a 3 specifically, and then you discard the cost of a 3. So essentially, you can discard the card you revealed, or you can discard the card that you found. It's completely up to you what you want to do. This card is a direct searcher for Jet, for Revenant, pretty much anything you need, Colossus, you name it. This is such a strong card. It does have a secondary skill. It says when you would discard from hand, this can be discarded as a grade 3. So on top of that, it also acts like a pseudo grade 3 on top top of that. As if this card couldn't do anything more, it does have additional skill on top of it. They could have literally had not had the additional skill on it, it would still be a great card, but it has an additional skill, so we're rolling with it, right? So there's that. And then we do have some zeros, and this is currently the card I'm testing. This is why my ratios are kind of weird right now, and that is the new puppy. This is the Protector of Memories Gear Puppy. So this is a promo that came out recently, like very recently to shops. I would say like a month or so back since the creation of this video. So whenever you're watching this, so it's been for as of me recording, it's been out recently. So this is a very interesting card. I'm still very 50-50 on it. I can't tell if I like this card more or if I like this card more. Most argue that this card's better. I'm kind of 50-50. I think in Flair, sending the, at least in V, because V is a little bit slower than Premium, I think being able to send back Flairs is a little bit more important, so I might just shred these and put this card back, but I'm not 100% yet on that. So this card has a very simple skill. In the bind zone, it's a 4. So I know it's a 0 right now, but it's a 4 in the bind zone. So the minute it gets bound, it's a 4. And at the end of the battle with boosted, you can bind it and draw a card. So essentially, if you open up like 3 of these or 2 of these or draw into these early, if you just, all you have to do is boost with them, and then they instantly go into your bind zone, and voila, you have a 4. And you know, if you boost up like 2 of these, which I've done like a couple times where I've dealt with boosted with 2, that's already 8 in your bind. It definitely accelerates your bind zone really fast. Very good card. This is kind of like the hardest slot in my opinion to figure out what I prefer. If I put the Urus back in, then I could drop these again and maybe run different grade ones that like the Gear Cat and Entra, just to find stuff that's more useful. It's like I said, this deck has a lot of openness when it comes to which bind cards you want to use, but then at the end of the day, it's kind of like what you draw into regardless. So in my opinion, like I said, you can put these in, you put this in and this in, you know, to kind of change out your bind, but at the end of the day, you're just binding cards and hoping to hit 19. So that's that. So that's our ones and our little bit of zeros. Next is triggers. Triggers can be, you don't probably need to go as crazy as I did. I think that I tested mainly a little bit differently, but I'm running right now, not 8, but I'm actually running 12 crits right now, and I will say I've been tossing this back and forth for a while. I've had this at 4, I've had this at 2, I've had this at 3, I've had this at 1. I have been hard moving this around between this and perfect guard draws. Sometimes I just feel like you just need to kill, and your triple drive they get off Flair just needs to be crit, and sometimes seeing that draw just hurts you, especially since you have to discard your whole hand. So I've been experimenting with crit sentinels. However, you know, there are those matchups where you need a perfect guard, and sometimes this just doesn't help you. However, if you early crit your opponent and then you crit them again and then you ride to Flair, they're already at 4 usually. They're usually suffering, and if that's the case, they will usually die. And you have 5 drive checks to do so. And if you happen to get triple turn, you have your 3 checks, and then you have 2 checks, and you have 2 more checks after that. So it's a lot of chances to check triggers, and especially since you usually want to check crits. And that's the main reason why I've been tossing back and forth, because usually when I check a draw, I always wish it's a crit. However, draws are super important for early fuel in case you happen to be bricking and all that kind of stuff. So it is kind of hard to tell for me exactly what the perfect tier trigger lineup is. So, but you know, I'm experimenting. You can very feasibly put in draws in here. Don't be scared to. It is okay. I've been testing with every ratio possible, but this has not changed. I've kept the crits pretty much where they're at. I know someone who runs a 12 draw. I don't think that's ideal, but you can also go that route too. It just means that you'll just see all your stuff faster, which means you're binding quicker. But again, at the end of the day, if you're running out of resources, you run out of resources. In V, there's no triggers that put stuff into soul, so you do get a little bit stuck. Nabu is your only way out to replenish soul. This deck, you kind of need to go a little bit fast to hit your bind. There is a kind of a big decision making. Sometimes you don't always want to go into extra turn, and that's kind of when the perfect guards come in handy. You sometimes purposely want to stall out. We have Heal Guardians. This is also another key piece to why this deck is way more functional now. Prior to Heal Guardians, I think this deck was tremendously weaker. Keep in mind, Heal Guardians are a 3. That is very important. This, like, you can Revenant Dragon into something like this. Like, your top 3 will be a heal, another Revenant Dragon, and something else, or you could be in hand and you can call the Revenant Dragon, and you can bind again. This is 6 bound, like really fast, and it would just make you go through really quickly. If it's in your hand, you can use Lost Break Dragon, just bind it, and then, you know, draw a card, and now you have a 3 bound. It just accelerates the process so much more. When these were 0s, it was definitely a lot. It made this deck so much slower and so much weaker. These being 3s has definitely escalated the deck a lot. And then last but not least, of course, you need a starter. Here is your starter. And then Force 1, Force 2, you can actually go either or. Force 2 is usually the way, and you always put it on Vanguard. You can go Force 1 if you want to spam for markers. You go Force 2 if you're focused mainly on Vanguard attacks. Force 1 is definitely not terrible, as it makes the numbers bigger, especially on your second turn. And Force 2 is mainly for like lethal blows. If you just want to just knock your opponent out of the park, they don't have a perfect guard, card, you just die right there. So you can do that. That is definitely a thing you can do. So up to you. It just depends on how you focus your build on. Like I said, Jet can force out spam markers. You can spam markers on Jet, so it's just something you can think about. But yeah, that's pretty much the main focus of the deck. We could try doing a quick mulligan run. I don't know how great it'll be because this deck is a little high roll. Just a wee bit. This deck is very high roll. Obviously, I'm joking. This is a very high roll deck, so sometimes you just want to hope you see your stuff, and if you don't see your stuff, you're just kind of screwed. So we'll try a game here, see how it works, if we hit our 19 or not. Just kind of play it out. We're shuffling. I've recently been doing this thing. I don't even know if it's like smart, but I've recently been doing half shuffles. Because I noticed that my hand has trouble gripping like the whole thing at once. So I've been doing half shuffles to kind of just like make it easier to shuffle, and then I'll just bit by bit take more and then shuffle, and then I'll take some more and then I'll shuffle, and then I'll take the last bit and I'll shuffle. And usually at this point it's like super hard for me to shuffle, but yeah, it's definitely a me problem. I'm pretty sure I'm just terribly shuffling. I have to go to half cuts, but it's been really useful. I have noticed I've been bricking less by doing this. But anyway, let's see what in the world our test hand is looking like. Hopefully it's not garbage. This is pretty garbage. We'll send back. I do want to be. I am feeling a little greedy. We'll keep the dog. I don't know if that was even ideal. This dog doesn't help us. So, but we'll see. Maybe we'll. This is another reason why I like OuterOrange better, is because you kind of want to see. That 3 there. But we'll try it out. I didn't roll the dice. So I'm going to use Wedge Move and Naboo as my way of going first or second. Wedge Move is obviously first. Naboo is going second. I have no idea. I legitimately don't know which one's which. Let me see. Which one do I have open? I opened Naboo, so I'm actually going second. So we drew a card. We got our Pretend Quick Shield here. This is our Pretend Quick Shield. We ride this, we draw a card, we don't hit the thing we need to hit, which is actually very troublesome here, but it is what it is. Anyway, we swing. This is our check. It's their turn. They give us a damage. Oh, that's right. We have to swing. We will actually, I already misplayed. Holy crap! I already misplayed so hard. So we actually want to boost here with the dog. So you want to call the dog. Sorry, I'm a little new to the dog. I keep thinking it's a trigger. Then we do the check. Sorry, the check is actually. Check is like this. This is why I'm not a check is like this, and then we bind this and we draw a card, and there we go. And then we take a damage, and then it's our turn again, and boom bam, we did find the jet. Thank goodness, because that would have been pretty scary. We can ride this guy here. We can call out this and then use his skill to bind another smoke here. Actually, probably gonna switch him like this. This is probably smarter. So we bind the smoke here and we draw a card, and then that's solid. That's actually perfect. I keep forgetting this vigor skill. Anyway, that's actually perfect. Now here we can kind of go a little ballistic. We're gonna counter blast. We're gonna soul blast. We're gonna search. We're gonna send back our own unit, and then we're gonna search for Revenant here. We're gonna call Revenant, and then we're gonna use Revenant's skill here. We might be able to find something juicy here, because this is one of those situations where if you find the dog, you're usually pretty set. But we're gonna be spicy here. We're gonna try and be spicy here. So we're gonna call the Revenant Dragon. Then we're gonna call Smoke here, because we're not chickens. We're not chickens today. We're gonna bind these two. Look at our top 3. Wah, wah, wah. We're gonna bind this, call these two probably call it like something like this. They're on grade 1, so it's actually would be something like this. And right now our bind zone is looking like 4, 6, 9, 11, 15. We do have another turn, but we'll be able to get there, so that's good for us. That's good for us as long as we are able to bind. We do kind of need a smoke gear here. That's our only fear. Probably instead of this, I should have probably bound a trigger. That would have been smarter over the smoke here, because we do want to keep the smoke here. So that actually lowers us at 4, 6, 9, 11. So puts us at 11, but we should be able to hit. You can call this out because we don't really care, or you can keep it in hand. We'll probably keep it in hand this situation. We'll swing, do our check. Oh, there's not a smoke here anyway. It didn't matter. Swing. Now it's their turn. They give us a damage or something. It kind of just depends on what kind of mood they're feeling. If they, I don't know if they know or don't know how to face to get around this deck. One counter blast usually is it kind of forces the deck to slow down a little bit, but 2 is like very whatever. Anyway, so we did so we got our guy. We do need a force marker. Let me go get some markers. So we're gonna put the force marker on Van because we are lethal as hell today. And now we pretty much just kind of win the game here. So we're gonna Soul Blast, bind these 2. I think that already fulfills our condition. Look at top 3. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Exactly what we want to see. Let's look at our hand here real quick. Make sure we're not doing anything stupid. And then yeah, we're just gonna party it up. We're pretty much we're gonna bind this, call this here. We should have our condition now. So 4, 6, 9, 11, 15. 18, like yeah, we're there. We're at 21. So we have our condition. Since if you're going for full lethal, you want to make sure you have a board set up. So you want to call everything out. Then we have nothing to send back with any of these skills. Just call it as much as you can. We're gonna call over this, actually call this here, and then we're going to use whatever card we want to write up since we have the condition. So we're gonna go grab our Flair. We got our Flair. I'll go get the SVR. There's the SVR. Anyways, we got our Flair. And FYI, all conditions are active. So we have a crit, we have triple drive, and we have 10k to active, and then we have the board reset, so the turn reset. So that's what happens here. So all these skills activate right here and right now, and pretty much everything has 10k power. So this is now 18, 28, 38, 43. This is also 43, and this is swinging 4. By the way, Vanguard gets a 10k too. So this is 23, 33, 43 with triple drive and a crit on top of it. So pretty much essentially we're going to go like this. They're going to tell us what they want. This is why these crits are super important. You can put, you know, wherever you want to put the power, and then they do their thing. We try and kill them here, and then our turn ends. We discard our entire hand. We draw a card, and it's Karunta. And we pretty much just swing face. It's up to you how you want to do it. You want to swing face, use the counter blast that you have, do the sentinel restricts, and then do your 2 checks here. It's another crit, put whatever effects, and you try and kill them like this. Now keep in mind, like I mentioned earlier, these numbers are only 23, so they're pretty small, but we did land a crit there. This is a force marker, and they can't use sentinels on this attack. So that's pretty much how it is. I know, sorry, early on I was a little scuffed there. I'm not as familiar with Dog and this card as I haven't used them in a while. And I haven't been testing this deck in a hot minute, so it's been a second since I've touched this deck. But as you can see there, yeah, we hit all our pieces. Our early mulligan was a little scary because we missed Gear Dog early on, so to get the jet, but then we drew into one, thankfully. But otherwise, that was the whole. Like, it didn't take much. We're actually past the 19 bind, you know, but it didn't take much. And I might split a little bit there with the gear, with the smoke gear, but it's okay, we got a second one anyway. But that's pretty much it. But other than that, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know, sorry if I tried my best to explain things. I know I kind of went a little off topic with the mulligan, but strange enough, the mulligan actually worked in our favor. We played it out, and I'm pretty sure we won that game against our pretend opponent. I'm pretty sure our pretend opponent lost because our pretend opponent gave us damage. I will say damage denial does help slow this deck down a little bit, but honestly, if you play towards the long game, it's not the end of the world either. But it's a very fun deck. You can try it out. It's pretty degenerate. Your opponent will hate you. Your opponent will judge you really hard for picking up this deck over any other V deck that they possibly could have played. Some people hate this deck more than they hate Steam Maidens, at least at my locals, because we constantly keep having Flair people, mystery Flair people randomly play this deck out of nowhere. So yeah, but other than that, guys, thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have tested this deck, feel free to let me know how you feel in the description below, and all that kind of fun stuff. So other than that, guys, I'll see you guys in a future video. Peace out. Do svidaniya. See you guys next time. Bye.